What the Sam Hill's going on here?
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Lois and Clark Rewatch, dedicated to the series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman on ABC. Join us each week as we investigate the origins of the Man of Steel and uncover crime in Metropolis. Send your feedback to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or follow us on Twitter at RewatchPod.
Oh, hey! Let's get back to it.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Lois and Clark Rewatch. I'm Corey.
And I'm watching a lot of Australian movies, which is why my Australian accent is so dead on, mate.
Yes. This
With
week we're
apologies
discussing,
to Corey.
we're discussing Crocodile Dundee this week. And,
Exactly. Crocodile Dundee too.
Well done.
Yes. Well,
So
it's just
authentic.
funny. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. We're here to discuss 2 more episodes of Lois and Clark, and this week's headline reads, Speeding Shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a superhero, actually.
Yeah. Yes, we're discussing Faster Than a Speeding Vixen and Shadow of a Doubt. But before we get into it, we have just a few points here in our follow-ups.
Yeah.
Starting with 3-parter Revisited. You were talking about last week's arc being a bit of a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Ended up just
And I
being a
was wrong.
2-parter.
Right.
But after watching these 2 episodes, are we getting a 3-parter? 4-parter?
Yeah, it seems like it is going to be that. Maybe I just, in my mind, I might have gotten those things mixed up, But I thought there was a 3-parter coming, so maybe this is it. This could be it.
Nice. Bit of an arc going on here. I like it.
Yeah. And then the other thing, which when I first said this, I was like, is that right? Doesn't seem right. Something seems different about that. So it was about the time slot for Lois and Clark. It was back when we were watching the episode Lethal Weapon, and I said something about it being moved to 7 p.m. on Saturdays, but that wasn't right. It was just moved to 7 p.m., and then now with the Speeding Vixen episode, that's when they moved it to Saturdays. So they've been playing around, I guess. I guess when it was airing, they were playing around with the schedule for it. So this is when it actually went to Saturdays and when things started to really go downhill, at least for viewership.
Yeah, it's interesting going back and seeing how they they play with time frames to sort of see if they can boost any kind of viewership in a different time slot. And they still do it today. I mean, recently they moved Legends of Tomorrow to play after The Flash because maybe they feel like they can sort of get that carryover or something to boost viewership. So, yeah, fascinating. All right, well, so we're moving to Saturday nights. Probably not good.
No, definitely not.
Knowing that, we're on the home stretch here.
Yeah, exactly.
So there it is. All right. Well, let's get into our first episode discussion today. The episode is Faster Than a Speeding Vixen, written by Brad Kern and directed by Neil Ahern. And this originally aired April 12th of 1997.
Oh, Lois Clark, I want you all to meet somebody. Leslie Luckabee, I'd like to introduce you.
Well, now, these two hardly need introductions, Perry. Lois Lane and Clark Kent. It's a sincere pleasure to meet you two.
Well, thank you.
I've been a fan of your work for quite some time. Really top-notch journalism. Had a lot to do with my final decision.
Final decision?
Mr. Luckabee here, he's the new owner of the Daily Planet.
New owner?
That's right. Disappointed.
No.
It's just that we didn't even know the paper was for sale, that's all.
Well, neither did I up until about an hour ago.
The negotiations were all handled through my home office in Australia. I didn't want the competition to get wind of it beforehand. You understand?
Of course. So you're Australian?
Born and raised. Wondering where the accent is, eh? Well, I watched too many American movies growing up, I guess. Anyway, I want to reassure everybody that I am not planning on making any wholesale changes around here. The last thing I want to do is ruin a first-class operation. My philosophy has always been the best way to lead is from behind.
Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
That's right. I'm impressed, Clark, though hardly surprised. You obviously didn't win that Kurth Award for nothing. At any rate, as I was telling Perry here, the only thing that I know about a paper is how to buy one. The rest I hope to learn from you three, if you don't mind.
Not at all, Mr. Luckabee.
Leslie, please.
Leslie.
As the Daily Planet team learns that it is now the property of an Australian millionaire named Leslie Luckabee, Superman has to deal with a new superpowered individual that has showed up to fight crime named Vixen. While extremely fast and strong and sporting an energy blast of some sort, Vixen dispenses justice by acting as judge and jury, unafraid to kill or hurt those who she considers evil or have committed a crime. Superman tries to reason with her that their job is to stop the crime and allow the system to take over from there, but she counters by saying that the system is broken. A short race and quick battle ensues, but ends with no winner. Eventually, we learn that she is working for a strange man who lives in the sewers of the city, sending her out on quests to grab the corrupt CEOs of certain businesses in Metropolis in an apparent bid to take them over. When Luckabee finds himself the target of an assassination attempt, he comes up with a plan to discover what happened to the missing CEOs. He will put out a story that he is himself corrupt, and using a tracker, allows Superman to find who took him. The plan works, and another battle between Superman and Vixen takes place, in which he learns that she is actually a robot of some sort. Before he can get more answers, he's destroyed in the fight. Underneath the city, we find the mysterious, misshapen man monologuing that Vixen has served her purpose, allowing him to gain control of the businesses he was hoping for, and that his partner seems to have gained the trust of Lois and Clark as well, who we discover is Leslie himself, who reveals that it was not a difficult feat for someone who is actually the son of Lex Luthor.
All right! Everybody listen up. Anyone who's not working on anything concrete is now working on this Vixen character. I want features, I want photos, I want editorials, I want the works. I want to know everything there is to know about her. Who she is, where she comes from, but most importantly, is she friend or is she foe? Let's show our new owner here what we're capable of. Okay, let's hop to. Lois, I want you and Clark on this. Page 1. Get me an exclusive.
What about the missing CEOs?
Oh, I'll reassign it. Honey, this could be the biggest story since Superman came to town. By the by, where is that husband of yours?
Oh, you know, he's...
Hey, check this out. Superman and Vixen were seen together in China. As a matter of fact, reports from all
on
over
top
the
of
world
things.
Oh, great shades of Elvis.
Amateur video captured him wrestling with her in what appeared to be a playful manner.
All right, Superman.
Law enforcement...
Well, it looks like he's found himself a mate.
Oh, it's about time.
I don't think it looks like he's found himself a mate. Superman would never cheat on his principles. He's far above that kind of tawdry behavior. Everybody knows that.
I meant mate as in friend.
Oh, Australian.
Right.
Right.
All right, so plenty to investigate. Let's get into it.
Definitely. So there was originally a different opening. They were actually at the Daily Planet, and Clark was talking to, I guess, Lois's mom on the phone, Ellen, and I guess she was asking about children. So, he gets off the phone and says, yeah, your mom was asking about children. And, that's how they get to talk about the whole, can we actually have kids? The whole breakfast, on the floor thing that their little romp that they had was not in the script originally. And then Clark has to rush off, to stop a crime, and Perry comes in and starts talking about the sale of the Daily Planet. So a different opening, basically. There was some extra dialogue from Lois, and she says basically, Clark, I love you. I honestly can't think of anything more romantic than having a baby with you sometime. Right now, we're still learning how to carve out time for ourselves, especially with, and then she makes that little, the flying motion that they do, especially with that to deal with. I mean, it occurs to me that while you're off safe in Bangladesh, I'll be the one stuck at home changing diapers, which is kind of what they got with the dream sequence,
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, you don't really need that because we had the funny dream sequence. So that's probably why they decided to get rid of that. When Vixen takes off suddenly, a cop says to Superman, hey, friend of yours? That type of thing. Jimmy had another line saying, hey, who is this babe? And is she single? which explains why later Lois says, okay, so what's up with his babe? Which I thought was weird that she called, Vixen a babe. But that's why, because they had this cut line.
Yeah, I actually thought it was funny because I think Jimmy calls her like a chick, and then something like that, and then he sort of tries to backtrack, and then Lois immediately refers to her as a babe.
Yeah, it was very weird. So that's why. There was some extra Lois and Leslie dialogue where Lois says, "Well, you're a lot younger than I thought you'd be," and Leslie says, "Well, not to worry. From what Perry tells me, the newspaper business ought to age me before my time." There's also some more Leslie and Jimmy interaction where Leslie is trying to make Jimmy excited. Like he's saying, "Hey, let's talk cameras soon as I get settled, because I'm thinking we should upgrade the whole department, go digital, And so he's getting all excited, he's going to get some new equipment. And then later on, he comments, so he's like, "This is Jimmy. So much for my chances of getting any dates around here. That guy's a stud." Talking about Leslie. Okay. And I was like, that's an odd thing to say. But iReactions was wondering, was this deleted because they were ending the whole run of Jimmy having a new girlfriend, every week? Because last week we had his real life girlfriend, and it sort of ended in a positive note. So maybe they're just going to end him being with a different girl every week. Right. I don't know. So where the hitman starts talking to, I called him in the synopsis, mysterious, misshapen man, because we don't have a name for him yet. So the hitman says to him, he's like, "Mind if I ask you something? Do you actually live down here?" And then mysterious, misshapen man says, "I know it's dank and gloomy and gives people the heebie-jibbies, but it's home." So, little extra from him. There was an extra moment on the street where Superman asks Leslie, if he recognized the hitman. Leslie starts to wonder, where is Clark, though? Where'd he go? And Clark saved my life. And I guess they deleted this because it only repeats stuff that happens later on in the Daily Planet scene. So just a little extra stuff there. I thought maybe they were going to try to go where Leslie's wondering if Clark, suspects, or if Leslie suspects that Clark is, Superman or something like that, but they don't quite go that way. And then there was a press conference with Superman at one point in the script where he's discussing Vixen, and the reporters and everybody are asking questions like, who is she? Can you handle her? What is she good? And the cops are like, hey, she's stopping crime. Crime is taking a downturn, so we're okay with it, even though it is, a little bit aggressive. And then someone says, "Can you stop her if she goes, over the edge?" And he says, "Well, hopefully it won't come to that." So it was a little press conference that he did, which wasn't in the show at all. Right. Just kind of interesting to see. And then finally, Vixen says to the mysterious, misshapen man when he's going over how he was his childhood and everything and hidden away, and Vixen actually says something like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you." And I'm wondering if they took that out because that kind of shows emotion. And at this point, we don't know that she's, when in that part of the scene, we didn't know that she was a robot yet. So that, and if the robot is showing emotion, it's like, well, okay, maybe she's not a robot then.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
It's all clear.
Now then. The evil Mr. Luckabee should be emerging from the Daily Planet. Less than 2 minutes. You'll have to time it just right to...
Are you all right?
Well, to be truthful, I'm not feeling all that well at the moment. I don't like the light, you see. I'm uncomfortable above ground.
Why?
You could never understand.
Why not?
Because you're a perfect being, Vixen. It's beyond your realm. You weren't a child raised in seclusion, reared by servants behind walls. Just a lonely, disfigured troll, hidden from the world by embarrassed parents who couldn't look at me, even in my one good eye. There. You happy? Want to mock me? Make fun of me? Go ahead. I'm used to it. Just get on with your mission. Get Luckabee. You understand?
Yes.
But remember, Superman may be onto you by now. If he is, and he tries to stop you, You know what to do.
Destroy him?
That's right. Now go. Make me happy.
Alright, so getting into the main story, and the lead here, mysterious, misshapen man menaces many.
Yes. Love my alliteration.
I do like it. We should say from the top, throughout all the notes here that we've got on this episode, pretty much refer to him as Troll. You refer to him as the mysterious, misshapen man.
Right.
And what I got from it was at one point he refers to himself as a troll who hides under the under the city and blah blah blah. And in all the research and finding out about this episode and stuff, most people refer to him as Troll.
Yeah, I saw that, and so that's what iReactions did too. And I don't know, I just hooked on to mysterious, misshapen man.
So we'll probably chop and change between the two, I guess.
There you go.
But we start off, Superman called out to a robbery, and he's trying to talk down this guy here when he is suddenly apprehended by this woman with super speed.
Right.
This is sort of our mystery person, I guess, for the episode. Vixen. Yes. Is this a comic book thing?
Well, like we said, when we were talking about what was coming up last week, there is a Vixen, but not at all like this. You know, the Vixen in the comics has animal powers. She can harness the powers of animals. So she could channel an elephant's strength, or maybe a cheetah's speed, and use those.
Oh, right. So, she's in Legends of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, they put her in there. Yeah, so a little different than this. This is. I think this is probably, like we said, one of those things where, they have the rights to the name Deathstroke, so they're going to use the name, even though it's nothing like the real Deathstroke. So, yeah.
No, I did like it. There was they cut to, a report on TV with a police officer stating what he saw.
Yes.
And he's trying to explain, what he did see. She's got this, deep V that goes down the front.
Right. Well, did you notice that in that little interview with that guy, he actually mentions kind of like Wonder Woman, but with a deep V.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so Wonder Woman. So she exists in this world, because we've had mention of Batman, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, cool little drop line. But and just a funny little, side gag there. But what's actually going on at the planet is that Lois is investigating these missing CEOs.
Yes.
Just all these guys disappearing. And while she's going on about this, Perry saunters in with this guy and introduces him as Leslie Lockerbie, the Australian billionaire who has bought the Daily Planet.
Yeah.
And immediately I wrote down in my notes, Australian? He has this throwaway line about watching American movies growing up.
I know. That's why I chose the beginning that I did, because, first of all, obviously his accent is not Australian.
He doesn't even try.
And then he says he's watched these American movies, and that's why he has, that accent. But that accent is not American either. It's it's slightly British, but not full on British. I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. I don't know. It was just not what I would say. Oh yeah, that's an American accent right there. It actually does. Before, I remember, watching this originally, so I knew what was coming. But just thinking about it, the way he talked, it did remind me a little bit of John Shay's accent when he played Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah, all right, I get that.
Yeah, so it's kind of close to that, which again, John Shay's, I know Lex Luthor is American, but the way he played him with his voice, it wasn't totally just a full-on accent. It was just, there was something about the way he delivered his words. It sounded not typical American. I don't know what it was. It was just different. And that's what I got from this guy's accent, Leslie's accent. It's just a little different. It's definitely not Australian, definitely not completely just normal American type accent. Not that, there's a normal one accent, but, I just...
Well, I guess I can sort of relate. I don't have a thick Australian accent or anything over here. I'm not hey, dingo didgeridoo, mate.
Exactly.
I grew up, I've got British parents, and I
Right.
watched a lot of American movies, so maybe that affected my accent to an extent too, so I guess it's not too far out of the realm. But this guy, seriously, Australian, it wasn't even close.
Why did it have to be Australian?
I don't
know. You know, like, why did they... They're trying to get viewers wherever they can, so...
Yeah. So we're getting into this plot about the CEOs disappearing, and we see, like, videotape of how quickly they disappear. They just appear to sort of vanish.
Right.
Out of nowhere. And again, it was kind of weird because the guy's toupee is left behind.
Yeah.
So random. But... Yeah, it's like they're being taken to this guy, Troll, underneath the city. He's down in the sewers doing something down there. And he's sort of like torturing them. He's got them tied to metal chairs. And it slowly comes out that he's sort of rebuilding on something, you know, something to do with the CEOs, probably LexCorp. I mean, if you really think about it, it's pretty obvious at the beginning. It's got something tied in with LexCorp, right?
Yep, definitely. And I like what you put in here because it didn't have to be Lex. It could have been the churches because we haven't heard from them in ever.
I know. It just left off with Mindy sort of taking control, and that was that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's you don't really quite get a handle on what they're doing here in this first episode, at least, right?
Right, yeah. Well, it's all set up.
And, you know, being that this is going to be an overarching thing, it's good, you know, don't let it all out so early.
Yeah.
You know? Let us dwell on the mystery of all this stuff.
It makes it feel grander when they do that. That's what I like.
Exactly. So we got all these people like speculating on what's happening around here. Leslie and Jimmy do actually have a scene. We talked about they had another scene, I guess, in the byline. You know, they're talking about Vixen and who is this woman, right? And they even bring up Ultra Woman.
Yes. That was a good little bit. That Ultra Woman, she was just gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah, but she quickly identifies herself as Vixen during another robbery. There's just like so many robberies going on, so Superman and Vixen can face off against each other. And they have this sequence where she sort of goats him into having a race.
Oh.
And they're like running all over the place, Paris, China, and it's all... I don't know if you got it, like, they end up in Paris, and they start playing that cliched music that would denote that you're in England. For some reason, it's just like they're in Paris and suddenly it's like dun 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 dun, and I'm like, you're not in England, you're in Paris.
That's true. I didn't even pick up on that until now. Yeah,
and then, of course, they're in China, so it plays that, you know, cliche Chinese music to denote we're in China now. But it was a fun sequence, you know, them just sort of, you know, racing off against each other.
Now, who is this person who plays Vixen? Do you know her?
No, I couldn't put a finger on who she was.
Well, I was like, I didn't know who she was either, but she just seemed real familiar, you know? And I think what it is she just reminds me of, what's her name? That Brigitte Nielsen, who was in wasn't she in the Rocky movie or something? Rocky 4?
Yeah.
She was the tall, she reminded me a little bit of that, but then so I looked her up. And she's been in a bunch of different things. Nothing like for like many, many years, except for one thing. She was an American gladiator.
Oh, for real?
For real. Her name was Ice.
Oh, man, I was hoping her name would be Vixen. That would just be hilarious.
No. Yeah, she was an American gladiator. Her name was Ice, which it fits because she looks the part. Like she's, you know, she was strong. She was built. She was buff. But she wasn't exactly the greatest actress, you know. Like
she was dressed like she was in the 80s.
Yeah, definitely. The way she acted, though, did fit the part when we find out that she's a robot because it was kind of very stilted delivery that she gave to all her lines, you know.
Just an excuse for getting a poor actress.
Well, exactly. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the greatest actor in the world either. I don't even act really, just, you know, here and there. But still, I was just like, man, she's not exactly like, I don't know. She just wasn't selling it for me. But that makes sense. You know, she's an American gladiator. She's used to just, you know, working, using her muscles, her body to, you know, do these amazing feats of strength and stuff. So, yeah. So there you go. She is Ice.
I like it.
Which actually, I think Ice is another superhero in the DC comics. Anyway, moving on.
Perry wants everybody looking into Vixen, and Lois gets pretty edgy when she sees footage of Superman and Vixen, quote-unquote, playfully wrestling.
Was this like... I was getting a little annoyed, and we'll talk about it in the next episode, too. Like, are they trying to, like, put in, like, stuff here to sort of, like, make them jealous of each other? Because I don't think we need to do that. That's that was done already. You know, we had the other, Lois's other lovers and Clark's, with what's her name, the DA. So like we've done that whole thing where they're jealous of each other. They're married now. I don't think we have to. I don't like this whole thing that it seems like they're trying to do here. Like, oh, she's going to be a little jealous of Vixen. You know, it's like, come on. Clark's not going to do anything.
Exactly. I mean, she knows he's Superman. She knows his values and everything. The fact that they're married, she knows that he's in love with her and that she's the one and only. So, yeah, you're right. They try to insert this just for fake drama.
Yeah, exactly. Fake drama. It was a good line though when she's talking to the parents. She's like, Superman would never cheat on his morals. It's like, standards. It's like, yeah, that was very good. Good recovery.
Yeah, the way that Luckabee even looks at her like, seriously? Is she always like this when it comes to Superman?
Exactly.
It was pretty good. And then we sort of get Luckabee tied into Troll's whole plot. He's cutting bonsai trees and listening to opera and paying people $100,000 to go and take care of Luckabee.
Exactly.
And they attempt to shoot him down, but Clark's there, so, it's not very successful.
Right.
But, it's, I don't know, this whole plot being weaved nice and slowly across this episode, It sort of, it really makes you go, I really got to come back and see how this plays out.
Yeah, exactly.
He's actually, like, really getting involved in the Daily Planet. He's posting all these fake stories about being an embezzler and stuff just to sort of, draw Vixen out into the open. And, you kind of feel like this guy's legit in a way, it kind of makes you think maybe he's not. But they're doing everything they can to sort of make you believe that Leslie Luckabee's a pretty good guy.
Good guy. He's a darn nice guy.
I must say, darn nice guy.
I just was like, well, he's the owner, but like the Daily Planet has been owned by other people, and like they didn't get that involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Franklin Stern when James Earl Jones, played him. He was the owner. And,
they couldn't afford him for every episode.
Well, yeah, he couldn't afford him for more than that. 15 minutes they had him. But then and again, I think that there's things that I don't know if they did on purpose that just reminded me again of Lex. So aside from his accent, when Leslie first came in, he says to them, well, I don't want to make any wholesale changes here. What works. And that's what Lex said when he bought the planet, remember?
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, look at that. There's a sign right there. Makes me think about Lex. And again, Lex was the owner, and he sort of got involved in the running of the planet there. And that's what this guy's doing. I'm like, I mean, I know you're the owner, but you don't really have to do anything. The editor is going to run the paper. They're going to, you can oversee it, I guess, and give opinion and say this and that, but it's really, you don't have to do anything. Yeah. But he really wants to. So it all reminded me back to like when Lex took over.
Yeah. They're hedging their bets though, I think, too, because like even though Luckabee's getting involved and he's saying like I don't want to change anything, he's actually kind of staying true to that, Lex kind of sauntered in and said, I'm not going to change anything, then immediately took over Perry's office and fired Jimmy and blah, blah, blah. So they kind of let him stay low-key and give you the feels that he just wants to be involved, he's just a nice guy and, he's bought a paper and, with his wealth, he can do whatever he wants. He owns the place now.
I guess so, yeah.
But he's happy to let it roll the way it's always rolled. But, of course, that is soon to be destroyed. The plan works. Superman fights off against Vixen. He discovers she's a robot.
Right.
So, I don't know how robot can get like super speed and stuff like that, but it's comic book logic, so I roll with it.
What I thought was interesting was I haven't seen a lot of this current season of Supergirl, but the guy who plays Superman over there is really great. I think he does a good job, and he in the one episode he like said to Supergirl, like they had captured someone. And he said, well, did you do this? Did you do that? When you saw him, did you, like basically, did you x-ray him to check if there was something inside of him? Was he a robot? Was he this? And like Clark never did that in this episode until this part right here near the end. And it's like, you probably should have done that earlier, to see, is she human? Is she alien? Is she, mechanical? And see what so you know what you can do. So you know how much power you need to use against her, which he never did, which I thought was odd.
Well, would it be pervy if he just did like a quick X-ray of her? You'd be like, why do you do that? What's he looking at under
I
there?
guess it could be. But I mean, if I had the X-ray vision and I was battling someone, I think I would, like, after so many battles with people, I think you'd want to see, what am I up against here? Like, this guy has some super strength. Why? Well, let me X-ray. Oh, he has a metal arm, or a metal body. And so just to prepare yourself, it's being a good tactician.
And I mean, the character's just not around a lot, She, as a robot, she's got super speed. She's got some sort of disintegration fire ability. Yeah. She's strong, I guess, as well. So, it's this kind of it. But she's kind of just the lackey, She's a means to an end to sort of get the ball rolling. And Superman pretty much takes care of it pretty quick smart.
Uh-huh.
Because we get to the end, and Luckybee's crediting Superman, Clark, and Lois. Hey, everybody's so great. I love you guys.
Yes.
But he's in fact in cahoots with Troll.
He is.
And most likely the son of Lex Luthor. And at the end, when they revealed that, because honestly, I wasn't even thinking that. You said you were sort of picking up on it when he was, taking over the planet and everything. As soon as they revealed that, I was like, his initials are LL.
Yes.
Duh.
Exactly.
But it's great setup.
Yeah.
Awesome
it's a good
episode.
part one.
Yeah, exactly. Just really looking forward to rolling into the rest of it. Some bylines for the episode. Lois and Clark have a spontaneous romp in the kitchen without protection.
Yeah.
And this leads them to talking about having kids. What'd you make of this?
It was fine. I don't know. I'm like that one guy from the back issues last week. It's like, do they always have to be kissing? I mean, come on, we get it, So
it goes back to that thing too of like, it's just happened, and then Lois is like, were you safe? Because I didn't do it. And Clark sort of acts as if like, I don't use condoms. You know me, woman. Jeez. It was just, it was a bit
caveman
weird. Clark. Oh, man. I'm sure this is going to be overarching though now. We've gotten to that phase. The weddings happen, the honeymoon's over, they're settling into their lives. Let's start talking about babies.
Yes.
So there's probably more of this to come.
Yes, definitely.
Including Lois's widow baby dream.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, though. And did you notice that two of the babies were named Lucy and Lana?
Yeah.
So like Lana Lang, which she did not have a good interaction with Lana Lang.
Well, not our Lana Lang, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. That was just weird. The Pope was there and the Queen. And for some reason, they were all like looking after the 70 children that Lois and Clark had for some reason.
Yes.
And, going forward, even they are thinking, is this possible? He's an alien, can this happen? So they even discuss maybe adoption.
Yeah.
Could that happen?
And why not? I mean, anybody, adoption is definitely something you can do. It has nothing to do with genetics. You just go and you sign up and you wait, and there you go.
Which, I don't know, maybe they're just throwing all these options out there just so they can sort of set this up for later, they can decide where they're going to go. Can Lois and Clark have a child together? Or, maybe we'll get to a storyline where they are going to get into adoption, be a bit more modern about the whole scenario.
Right.
For future seasons, which unfortunately will never come.
No, they do not.
Did you notice during one of the robbery scenes, there's all this gunfire going off, and to get out of the way, one of these guys jumps through a plate glass shopfront window.
Really? I didn't catch it.
At first funny. I thought it was they're just shooting out the front of the window. No, to get away from the gunfire, this guy just jumps through the window. And I was like, logical, I guess.
Well, they had the effects budget, I guess. Hey, we got a window we can break. Let's do it.
Yeah. And then Superman flies in, apprehends them. He's got to chase off after Vixen. He turns around to the police and says, make sure these two get arrested.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Maybe going back to that a couple of weeks back where they were talking about Miranda rights and stuff with Tempest.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that could be.
Sort of just revisiting that line.
Uh-huh.
Finally, going back to Lockerbie's Australian thing, the use of the word mate.
Yes.
Pushing the Australian angle here. He says,
Yes.
looks like Superman's got himself a mate. Lois gets all jealous, realizes
Right.
that he's using quote-unquote Australian slang.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure it's the best use of the word. I mean, the guy would
No.
know that by saying mate, it would imply sexual partner or something like
Right.
that, right?
Exactly.
It was a weird sort of, we're trying to put something funny in here. And it, for me, as an Australian, I was like, that doesn't really work.
Well, like I said, I think they're just trying to create that fake drama, the jealousy type thing in there. So, yep.
Well, let's do this week's quote vote, hey?
Yep.
What's everybody standing around for? This is a newspaper, not happy hour at Buckingham Palace. What are we here, the Daily Planet? Or second stringers from the Weehawken Gazette?
Am I making myself perfectly clear?
Short but sweet one this week.
I was surprised. I was totally expecting people to make us do the whole sausage thing.
I know, right? We had one vote for the sausage thing, so.
I know. I was like, really? I was like, I figured they would want to see like Sean Connery and, Vincent Price talking about,
Yeah. But as it
Anyway.
stands, we got this one as a winner, and it's very short, so cue the music.
Sean Connery is watching a news report about Hick. Wow. Hey, VP, have you heard about this new super Hick? I mean, redneck hobo guy in town?
Sean, do me a favor. Go drool over at your desk while you run a background check for me. and scene.
I like the hobo guy.
I just thought that was perfect because he says chick, and I was like, oh, Hick, what's about that?
Nicely done.
Thank you. All right, so let's get into a second episode discussion. The episode is Shadow of a Doubt, written by Grant Rosenberg, directed by Phillips Grisha, and this originally aired on April 19th of 1997.
Hey, you two. Leslie here's got some great news.
Yesterday, Perry told me about a convention in Atlantic City.
The International Association of News Writers.
That's the one.
Very big deal.
I called the organizers and raised hell that none of my people were invited.
Well, only a couple of U.S. papers are invited every year.
It'll be 3 this year. I'd like you two to represent us.
It's a fantastic opportunity. What do you say?
Oh, well, we're pretty busy working on the story.
Lois, I've seen you juggle 4 or 5 assignments.
And it's not like you're going to be out of touch. There are such things as telephones, fax machines.
He has a point.
Okay, we're in.
Wonderful. I'll let them know immediately. Oh, and if anyone needs me, I'm holed up in here until they have my office ready upstairs.
Leslie, thanks for using your clout to muscle us in.
Well, I'm just the new kid from down under, but I try.
I'm just the new kid from down under, but I try.
What are you doing up here?
Clearly you have their trust, Master.
Well, I suppose it's all a matter of charisma.
It's a matter of cunning and manipulation, sir. Mine.
And don't think for one moment I'm not grateful. What, after all, is the star without the supporting player?
Leslie, I was wondering... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, not at all, Lois. I'd like you to meet Mr. Smith, my one-time tutor, my valet, my aide-de-camp.
Please do. Me too. Well, I can come back later. I just wanted to ask you about that flight information.
Of course. My man here will have it ready for you within the hour.
Lois and Clark frantically talk with a doctor on the phone, yelling about being in danger. Superman arrives to find a windowless room barricaded from the inside, yet the doctor is dead, strangled. Meanwhile, the new Daily Planet owner Leslie Luckabee pulls some strings in order to get Lois and Clark invited to a special exclusive convention. While Lois goes on ahead to the hotel, Luckabee pulls more strings, which enables Clark to snag an interview with a very famous criminal on death row, requiring him to call Lois's hotel to leave a message letting her know the sudden change in his plans. Luckabee shows up and explains about Clark's absence at the convention, and Lois agrees to show Luckabee around the convention and introduce him to the people. Later, he arrives at Lois's door asking for help with his bow tie and makes a pass at Lois, for which he promptly apologizes, and the two agree to forget about it lest Clark get angry and leave his Daily Planet position in anger. Later, once Clark returns, Leslie apologizes for his behavior to Clark, leading Clark to confront Lois and find out what actually happened. Under the city, a man who seems able to turn himself into a shadow confronts the mysterious misshapen man, referred to as Mr. Smith earlier in the day by Leslie when he introduced him as his teacher and mentor to Lois. The shadow man demands an antidote for this power, which causes him pain when exposed to light, but Smith says he needs him for more assassinations first, promising relief later. With help from Jimmy, Lois and Clark manage to link the growing list of mysterious strangulation victims to Vixen, each having specialized in various aspects of the robot's creation. Furthermore, they discover that Walter O'Neill was the one signing the paychecks and that an employee of O'Neill's was involved in an accident that left him unable to maintain his molecular cohesion, looking like a ghost or shadow, which would explain how the professors have been dying. They reason that Vixen was used to allow O'Neill to buy up companies while the Shadow Man was used to clean up the loose ends. The Shadow decides enough is enough after hearing Mr. Smith and Luckabee talk about there being no antidote for his condition, and decides on revenge by going after the woman they both seem to be obsessing over, Lois Lane. Luckily, Superman arrives in time and uses his heat vision to create a blinding light that seems to make the Shadow Man disappear. Lois and Clark rush to the planet to save Luckabee, whose name was on the list of those being hunted by the Shadow Man, but as they arrive, Luckabee shoots Walter O'Neill, who had arrived there to force him to sell or die like the others. As Lois and Clark recover from the week at home, they look over the companies that Walter O'Neill had been taking over and realize that if Luckabee took over O'Neill's properties and combined them with his own, he would actually have the equivalent of what was once known as LexCorp. Adding to that a statement made by the Shadow Man, they realize that Luckabee could actually be the son of Lex Luthor. Finally, under the streets, Luckabee and Smith listen to a long-lost recording of Lex, recorded shortly before his death, in which he reveals that Superman's true identity is Clark Kent.
This is the second case of a person in a locked room dying of strangulation.
Self-induced strangulation is extremely rare. But it's true.
Well, apparently also this Dr. Rankin was involved in building Vixen. So if you have any theories on what might have killed these men, I would be very interested in hearing them.
You got it. Well, bye.
Bye-bye.
Is there something else, Superman?
Yeah, you and I have a doctor-patient confidentiality, right?
Absolutely. What's on your mind?
A woman.
A woman.
I'm seeing one.
Seeing?
You know, dating.
Dating? You're dating?
Well, yeah. And I have a few questions.
No one has ever sat you down and explained these things before? All right. What I am about to say may shock you.
No. What I need to know is if this woman and I got serious.
Is this anyone I know?
Do you think we'd have enough biological compatibility to have children?
What? Well, the thing is, while in many ways you resemble an Earth human, your biology is clearly different. You couldn't donate blood, for instance. Determining whether you could father a child here would require careful testing.
Okay.
Well, meanwhile, any relations with your honey must be conducted with extreme caution.
Of course.
You know what I mean by caution?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Who knew?
All right, so, yeah, still a little bit here in the investigation. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so there was a line from Jimmy where he said, boy, this murder sounds like a Sherlock Holmes mystery. And Lois says something like, more like Murders in the Rue Morgue. And Clark says, I don't think it's killer monkeys doing it. So a little, reference to the old Sherlock Holmes books. In this, in the original script, the Lois and Clark were not asked to go to a convention. Instead, they said Lois was going to be asked to do a panel, I guess, at the convention, called The Headlines, Women Who Write Them and Make Them. So she was going to do that. And Leslie reaches into his pocket to get the tickets for it. When he can't find them, the troll, who we now know as Mr. Smith, suddenly appears to hand Leslie the tickets, saying that Leslie forgot them. And that's when Leslie introduces Smith, as his valet and whatnot. And this was all done in the later scene anyway. So that's why they took that out. They just rewrote it in a different way. Later, there's a scene with Leslie and Mr. Smith, and Leslie demands to know why he was at the planet, and Smith says, I was just bringing you the tickets. And Leslie says, well, the tickets were in my pocket, you must have removed them just to create an excuse to come up, to see Lois. So a little more like, heads butting right there between the two. When Superman asks Dr. Klein for advice on women, I love this. I really want to see all these deleted scenes with, like, Dr. Klein, because he's so funny. So he's like, a woman? So what did you want to talk about? Earthly mating rituals? What kind of wine goes good with oysters? Maybe Bernard Klein's secret massage technique? It's like, oh man. Considering how often he's talked about monkeys, where does he develop this secret massage technique? Just saying. So then Superman says, well, I'm curious about compatibility, to which Klein says, I don't know the lucky girl, but I suppose you could take one of those tests in Cosmo. And then Superman's like, well, biological compatibility, And Klein says, well, tests need to be run. And Superman says, well, I can do them right now. And Klein says, someone is certainly hot to trot. Some really good lines from Klein. I like Klein.
Yeah, he's really good.
They ask Leslie, how did he get the death row interview with that Peter Massey guy? And basically he says, does screaming show me the money into the phone until I'm hoarse ring any bells? So just basically throwing money at the problem.
Not important. Moving
on.
For all these years, I was shocked.
Making progress.
Slow, but sure.
Think of it, son. The secret that could make us the most powerful men on Earth.
You found his secret.
Listen, the only thing that's ever rivaled our power was Superman. But what better way to neutralize him than to possess his deepest secret, that of his true identity?
He knew.
Evidently.
After all these years, I was shocked, but somewhat amused to discover.
Discover what? Who is it?
Hopefully I can recover the sound so we can find out.
Oh, everything is falling into place. Do you know how people look at me? With awe. I was born for this.
Born for it? I put all this in your hands.
And as for Lois Lane...
Just remember our goal. To drive a wedge between Lois and Clark.
Of course, but the added dividend is... Well, she claimed to be angry with me last night, but... I don't know, there was something else in her eyes.
Stop it! Stop it.
I don't know why you're so upset. We're both going to have exactly what we want. I need to get back to the Daily Planet. Pull the car around. Well, Lex Luthor Jr. doesn't drive himself now, does he?
All right, getting into the main story. The lead here, Sneaky Shadow starts slowly slaying.
I'm going crazy with the alliteration today.
I love it. All right, so Lois and Clark get a panicked phone call from this guy, Dr. Martinelli.
Yes.
It's a strange way to pick up on this.
Yeah, it is.
It seems that something's going on with all the scientists behind the creation of Vixen.
Yes.
And he's attacked by a shadow. So, I wasn't expecting them to introduce more bad guys.
Yes.
Really? But, I mean, this is like the MacGuffin, really. Like, the Shadow character is just not... He's not very central to the plot. He's kind of just on the side to sort of progress the story along and help
Exactly.
Lois and Clark get further along in their investigation of the whole thing, right?
Well, he's basically just another vixen. That's all he is. He's another underling hired. What I thought was funny was they're talking to him on the phone for a good amount of time there, and he's obviously panicked. It's like, Clark, you should probably change to Superman and get over there, before he dies. It's like they're just talking on the phone. It's like, go. What are you waiting for? I know you're waiting for, to see where he is, but like, use your super hearing, tune into the phone while you're flying. I don't know. I thought it was weird that he took so long to finally get there.
Yeah, it's true. It's just, you're not doing anything else except talking on the phone. How about a welfare check, man? Even if it turns out to be nothing.
Right.
At least you checked on the guy.
Exactly.
But there it is.
Just being nitpicky,
Lockerbie comes in. He's organized for Lois and Clark to attend this International News Writers Convention in Atlantic City. Did you think they were going to actually go outside of Metropolis? Like, it quickly disintegrates into something else, but...
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they've never really done that so much, and I thought that'd be cool. I forgot. I didn't even I remember the basics of this storyline, but I didn't remember all the little details about it, so I didn't remember if they were going or not.
And this is where we get Troll up in the Daily Planet, right? And we're talking about it in the bylines. I don't know. It kind of seems like the scene they had in the byline seemed a bit more natural, whereas this was like, how did he sneak into Lockerbie's office? And
exactly,
he's sort of sniffing around, and Lois sort of saunters on in, and is like, oh, who is this guy with the crazy face?
Exactly.
So, it's a little bit more ham-fisted here.
A little bit, yeah.
But, of course, the shadow figure, this guy Hanson, I guess he was some sort of, mob hitman or something. He was in an accident, right?
Yes.
And became this shadowy character, and Troll has, pretty much promised, I can cure you, but I need you to, go and take care of some people for me, and then I'll do that, right?
Yep.
Taking out all the creators of Vixen to sort of cover his tracks, quote unquote. And he's deep beneath the subway again, and he's searching for what he refers to as a powerful secret that Lex took with him to the grave.
Yeah, I didn't realize until then that this was where they were hiding out when Lois had the amnesia and was wanted to Detroit. But yeah, I guess that's what this is supposed to be.
So tying it into Lex, and honestly, I was praying for some sort of cameo from John Shea.
Well, you do get it.
Yeah, we're sort of going to get it. But I don't know, it was intriguing that they're coming back to Lex Luthor. Because it's like you mentioned, it could have been Church and Intergang, but I think at this point we can safely assume they've dropped that storyline. We're not going to get any more to do with that. We're going to tie back into the good old days where we had a good villain, Lex Luthor. So... presumably, we're going to get it by the end, so it's not really a spoiler alert, but they're looking for information on Superman, right?
Yes. Yep.
We know that Lex knew that Clark was Superman, so obviously this is not good for Supes at all.
Nope.
Clark's looking into this whole Vixen thing, and he's finding payments with Jimmy for these Cayman Island accounts, right? And this is what's going to sort of get them to thinking that maybe Leslie's not on the up and up, right? But... in the meantime, he sort of separates Lois and Clark, right? So they're heading off to this convention when suddenly Lockerbie's got this interview with a death row inmate that nobody could get the story for. So Clark's going to go off and do that. And the way this unfolds, it kind of it makes him look like he's not being a creepy perv, right? It's you're looking at it what's he doing? Is he intentionally doing this? But he seems to always have a good reason for getting in the way of their relationship somehow.
Well, are you talking about the phone call? Or are you talking about when he shows up at the... Okay. So, yeah, Clark makes the call to the hotel to let him know that he's going to be going to do this other thing instead, and then immediately... Lockerbie calls the same place and says front desk. And we don't get to hear what he says, but I just assumed that he canceled the message.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's just okay. Yeah, he's doing all these things. And it seems like he doesn't realize, that a married couple would ever speak to each other.
Right, yeah.
Because later Clark's going to be like, oh, I called you and left a message. And, that's kind of the end of that. So you're like, what was his purpose in calling up and canceling this message so Lois wouldn't know that Clark wasn't on his way?
Well, I think. Well, see, what this is going back to the last episode too. This is where I'm like, I got a little annoyed because I'm like, I think they're just trying to create this fake drama where he's trying to give the impression that something's going on between him and Lois to get Clark jealous now. You know, we had Lois a little jealous last episode. Now we have this thing where a couple times in this episode, she says she leaves Clark a note, but he doesn't get it. You know, one time he shows up and doesn't actually get to his desk to get the note because they're going out for dinner, you know. And the other time she writes a note and it just falls down onto the floor behind, you know, a table, and he doesn't get it there. So it's like this fake drama where are you telling me that suddenly Clark doesn't trust Lois? I don't think so. You know?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And Luckabee shows up at her hotel room.
Yeah.
And, of course, she's a little bit embarrassed because of the way she answers the door
Yes.
with the silky thing and everything.
Exactly.
Right? And then he comes in, asks, you know, for help with his bow tie.
Yeah.
Makes a bit of a pass at her. And she's offended by this. Like, why wouldn't she be? And he immediately, like, tries to backtrack away from it, saying like, oh, you know, I've had a bit to drink. And she's like, well, maybe you shouldn't drink then. Like,
Exactly.
you know, and he seems like genuinely apologetic about it. And you're like, well, when this plays out, like, is this really doing anything to damage Lois and Clark's relationship? Because they just talk about it and it kind of just gets settled almost immediately.
It gets pretty settled. But there was like, I still think like part of it, like later on, they were still a little uncomfortable until they actually talked about it, you know? And I think that's, you know, like we said, it's like here in America, we've got a whole bunch of fake news these days. And now in Lois and Clark, we've got fake drama, you know, stuff that they're doing just to try to make it turn the screws a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
It's like maybe they'll get divorced. Maybe they'll be angry at each other. No, that's not happening.
All it really does is they sit down, they talk about it, they get it out in the open, and then they just look at Leslie Luckabee and go, what's this guy's deal?
Exactly.
Why, you know, and then it just seems like it goes back to being hunky-dory again. They just, you know, oh, he's Leslie Luckabee again. And he's like, who is this guy and why does he keep doing this weirdo stuff that, you know, isn't really, like, evil or anything? So it's like, so can, you know, oh, Leslie,
right,
that kind of thing.
If Lex Luthor was back, if they actually brought John Shea back, okay, even if he came back, they would, like, to me, they're still married. Lois and Clark are still married. They've made this huge leap. They're not going to just be like first season where, you know, Lex would come in and sweep her off her feet and, you know, Clark would be all jealous and mopey outside her window, you know. That's not going to happen anymore because now they are together. They are married. So even Lex, I don't think would be able to tear them apart as far as their love goes anymore. So that's why, like, when I see him trying to do it, I'm like, it's not going to work.
Well, you know where I thought they were going to go with it? Because we talked about this back when, you know, I think probably the last time we saw Lex, like his big hurrah. You were talking about how, you know, Lex Luthor dies, comes back as his own son.
Yes.
And that's what I thought they were trying to do here. I'm like, they're trying to tell us that, no, this isn't Lex Luthor's son. He's actually Lex Luthor.
Yeah, that would have been good.
And he's playing this, you know, mind freak game with them because that's what Lex Luthor does.
Exactly. That would be cool. That would have been cool. That actually comes up in the back issues a little bit.
So anyway, so they're looking into it further. They're kind of linking Luckabee to Lex Luthor through these Cayman Island accounts, right? Or at least to, you know, the creation of Vixen and stuff like this. Clark uses his, like, super sight, like, right in front of Jimmy. Right. And he gets this reflection of Luckabee Enterprises on a list that's being reflected in the guy's glasses. Was it weird that it wasn't backwards? It's a reflection.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that. I didn't even think about that. That's true.
That's a bit of a goof, right?
Yeah.
Unless the guy's got Luckabee Enterprises written backwards on a sheet of paper in front of him. For some
you
reason.
never know. It's secret code.
Yeah, while all this has been going on, we've had Hansen, the shadow guy, lurking around.
Yes.
And he finds out that then there is no cure. Troll's just using him for his own evil gains, right? He's been lurking around in the corners while Troll and Luckabee were talking. So Hansen gets this idea that he'll go and attack Lois because they seem to have this weird preoccupation with Lois Lane. And he performs this attack on Lois. And I have to say, The effects here and the guy like lurking towards her as a shadow figure was creepy as hell, man.
It was good. Yeah, I liked it.
So well done. For a little side villain, I mean, man.
Yeah.
They put in a lot of effort here. The music and the attack and the effects and everything, I think it came together superbly.
I mean, he wasn't super developed, like, as a character, you know, like his backstory. But, yeah, it was well, like, as far as effects go. And the way he played it was good.
And, I mean, like, as far as supervillains go, though, I mean, he's, again... he's wrapped up pretty quickly, you know. Oh, he doesn't like the light. Oh, well, duh, he's a shadow man.
Exactly.
So that's pretty much taken care of. They're going through this thing, and it seems like all this stuff is pointing towards a person called Walter O'Neill, who is the guy responsible for making Hanson into a shadow man, right? He's like...
Yeah.
Like a rival LexCorp of sorts, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And Lois mistakenly deduces that Luckaby's involvement is actually as a target to this Walter O'Neill. You know, they're kind of falling for the guys, right? So Lois arrives at the planet just as Luckaby kills this guy, Walter O'Neill, in quote-unquote self-defense. To kind of, you know, put this mask over the whole thing. And it seems to be working. But, of course, you know it's not going to last very long.
Right.
They pieced together that O'Neill owned half of Lex Luthor's business, LexCorp, right? Because I guess when he died, all the subsidiaries got broken up. And Luckaby pretty much owns the other half. So now with Walter O'Neill gone, this is the recombining of all that business to build back LexCorp. So we get the statement from Hanson he made about Luthor or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
This pretty much just leads them to believe that Luckaby is Lex Luthor's son. They get there pretty quickly.
They do.
And then we find out what Troll was searching for the whole time. He has had this cassette of Lex Luthor's voice, and it is John Shea returning to do just the voice of Lex Luthor, which is good. I mean, all that delivery is so good.
Oh, yeah. It's perfect.
They've cleaned it up, and he reveals his big secret. Superman's identity. So now our two bad guys here, Troll and Luckaby, have this information.
It's good.
Presumably to go on to another episode next week. You know, a nice big overarching thing that we're got going here. Again, it's left me wanting to know what happens next. You know, they've grabbed me. This is good.
Exactly.
Overarching stories keep me coming back every week. I love it. And we didn't talk much about Troll, but this guy... He's laying it on thick, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very campy. He's a little campy.
That voice, there's something about that voice that just sort of, you know, he may look a bit, you know, funny in the face. You know, those prosthetics aren't excellent or anything, but
no,
I think he sells it pretty well with that voice.
Yeah, he's menacing.
Yeah. I don't think this actor's gone on to very much from what I could say.
Yeah, I didn't even think to look him up, but he's not, you looked it up and you saw?
Yeah, I kind of just flicked through his IMDb page. He's really got nothing on there. This is probably his big thing, and I think he went on to voice, you know, video games and stuff, you know. He's got the voice for it.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, cool episode. Very intriguing. All right, some bylines. Clark speaks with Klein about having children. We kind of got into this a little bit in the investigation. Yeah. Despite the stuff they cut from it, still a very funny scene.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Especially after he leaves, too, and he goes, who would have known?
Exactly. Just a little thing like that, you know?
Yeah, just like how is Superman going to structure this question that he has, you know? How
Exactly.
Without giving too much away to Klein. Even though he trusts the guy, he can't be fully trusted with everything. I thought it was done pretty well. And the guy, just this idea where he's like, oh, I never really thought about that. Maybe I will look into that for you, Superman. In a throwaway line, we get that Jimmy doesn't pay his phone bill a lot.
Yeah. Again. Yep.
They have this whole discussion about, because Luckaby's involved with, you know, what is it, Lextel?
Yes.
The phone service or something like that, and he's cutting rates or something.
Yeah.
And Jimmy makes it sound like just a lot of the time he doesn't pay his phone bill, and he gets all kinds of like surcharges and whatnot for not doing it. And you're just like, well, just pay your phone bill and it'll be done.
Exactly.
Weird. I had to talk about the operatic score that they put down when we see Troll down in his lair. an interesting juxtaposition.
Oh yeah, it was nice because it's not the typical just not canned music, but it's not the typical instrumental music we usually get. So it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, the way it sort of beefs up, in the big crescendo of the opera.
Oh yeah,
as he's monologuing and stuff like that. It's
and
that guy's voice, like I said, that guy's voice is like really interesting. I pay attention when this guy's like got something to say. Pretty good villains, I think these are two decent villains that we've seen in a long time. And honestly, I actually kind of like Troll a bit better than I like Luckabee.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Luckabee is just a bit of I don't know. He just seems a little like light and fluffy. Like he could, like I'm not scared of him. Like Luckabee, I could take him down. I think. Just like good old punch to his, to his jaw. He'd be like, that really hurt. Why would you do that to me?
But yeah, I don't know. I think hopefully in the next episode they're going to tell us how these two teamed up.
Oh, I know what's coming. So.
But tying Lex into it. I mean, we talked about how they tried to tie Lex in with those brothers.
Yes.
And it was just like, these guys ain't got nothing on Lex Luthor. I mean,
exactly.
Troll and Luckabee, they're pretty decent Lex facsimiles. I mean, if we can't have Lex, having these two sort of intertwined with Lex,
yes,
I'm happy to roll with it.
Yes, no, I like it, and it's not like they're the typical duo that we've had in Lois and Clark, where one's the smart one and one's the dumb one.
Mm-hmm.
They're both very calculating.
Yeah, and they've held that mystery of how they came together, like I mentioned. So
right,
it's really got me intrigued.
Speaking of the Luckabee actor, I didn't mention this in the other episode, but apparently the actor who plays Luckabee also was in an episode of Smallville.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I did not see this episode, but it was on his, of course, his IMDb page, and he played someone named Henry Small, which I imagine is what they named Smallville after, I guess. So yeah. He was in there, and then the other thing, that Australian accent, I just remembered why I think they picked Australia.
Mm-hmm.
In the comics, when we were talking about how they did the whole Lex Luthor reborn as his son thing,
right?
Well, when he was reborn as his son, basically what they said was that, well, at first nobody knew he was reborn as his son. They assumed that this was his son raised, out of the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
And his son actually was from Australia in the comics.
Ah, see,
so
that's why I was getting that.
Yeah.
I knew there was a reason why I was getting that feel of like, maybe this is Lex Luthor.
So I bet that's why they did it, because to try to play a tribute to that in the comics.
The people who know the comics will think this is where we're going.
Exactly.
And then we'll do a bit of a bait and switch on them, maybe.
Yep.
Interesting. I like it.
You're alive, so I assume everything went according to plan.
It couldn't have gone better. Lane and Kent found every piece of evidence we planted.
Even the damning reflection in the photo of O'Neill.
Clark was particularly proud of that piece of detection.
They're very good.
Good enough to lay everything at the feet of O'Neill. When this hits the paper tomorrow, his entire empire will crumble, and we'll be around to pick up the pieces. If you listen closely, you can hear Lex laughing from his grave.
If you listen closer, you can actually hear him speaking.
You restored the recording.
When have I ever failed you, Master?
After all these years, I was shocked, but somewhat amused to discover that Superman had been masquerading as my other nemesis, the beloved of my dear Lois.
Like I said, they
none
were
other than Clark
Lex reborn
Kent.
They were saying, oh yeah, I bet Leslie is Lex reborn. It's going to be just just like the comics and everything. And we will find out if that actually comes true. But they said, they loved the baby scene, the floating baby that was flying, at the one point. It was cheesy, but it was funny, It was very amusing. And the whole thing where he goes, where Clark says, "Oh yeah, Buffalo Stampede, gotta go." It's like, it was funny. It was very, very funny. Yeah. And they said obviously they're going for a cliffhanger probably at the end of the season about babies. So that's what their guess was. They said it's a very realistic plot. The guy who plays Leslie was great. He was realistic. And then they said, I like the anagram because it's called Faster Than a Speeding Vixen. And if you mix the letters up, it actually spells out fast with a V on the end. So they noticed that. And I was just like, well, that's pretty good to notice that. And then the same person said, it's kind of like El Cid, which is an in-joke for any sliders. And I was like, oh my gosh, someone referenced sliders in the Lois and Clark forums there. I was like, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was neat. And then for the second episode, they said that the explanation of the Shadow Man, that Hanson guy, was a little too simple. Jimmy says it in like one sentence, and they wanted more detail, like some more exploration of that character is what they were hoping for. And I can agree; it would have been neat to see a little bit more of him. They liked the parallels at the end of the episode because on one side you have Lois and Clark discovering, Leslie could be the son. And then on the other side, you have Leslie and Smith saying, oh my God, Clark is Superman. Like these revelations that paralleled between the two of them, it worked really well. One guy said, that Dr. Klein, it just always works with that guy, But then he said, why, though, did Superman kill the Shadow Man? The Shadow Man's dead. Did he just kill him?
I didn't even think about that. He sort of just hits him with the light, and then he goes, poof.
Yeah, but is he dead? I think he might be dead. I think Superman killed. This is where the whole Man of Steel started from, the whole new movies. It all started right here. See? Damn it, Dean Cain, it's your fault. You killed the Shadow Man, and now we've got moody Superman in the movies. See?
Or you could just look at it like, well, it was Shadow Man's fault for getting in the way of my light.
There you go. Blame the victim. Blame the victim. That's the problem with the world today. I guess in Florida, there was someone who was disappointed. They were talking on the forums. They were asking if anybody had tapes that they could get from them of the episode, because in Florida, Lois and Clark were preempted for Space Jam.
What?
I guess on Saturday night, they decided to not show Lois and Clark. Instead, showed an episode of Space Jam. Or the movie Space Jam. The movie Space Jam.
Okay.
It's like, that sucks. I mean, if you're going to get preempted, at least make it worth it. They said what was odd is that Clark was very suspicious in the first episode, but then in the second episode, he's kind of given like multiple chances to Leslie. It's like, oh, okay, I'm sure it's okay. You're not, this isn't suspicious at all. I don't suspect you of anything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah. It's like too much, yeah. And then finally, they said when Lois was being menaced by the Shadow, why didn't she just start screaming for Superman immediately? She's never been scared, speechless before. She's always been able to yell for help. And they said, well, maybe it was just an unfortunate choice, and maybe the writers, it shows that not all the writers understand these characters completely. So there you have it.
All right, so our next issue, we'll be discussing Voice from the Past. And I've got you under my skin.
Now, Voice from the Past, I assume we're going to hear more of that tape.
Yes.
That's the only thing I can imagine.
That's exactly what I'm thinking too. Lex's voice, what else can he tell them? I mean, he's already told them something big, but what else can he reveal?
And then I've got you under my skin. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what this episode could be.
Well, I mean, if it goes beyond 3-parter and into a 4-parter, then, if they know who Superman is, then maybe, metaphorically they've got control over him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that could be. I remember the title, and I just can't remember what it was about, though. Well, whatever it is, we'll find out next week, because that's it for this issue of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or facebook.com/Lois and Clark Rewatch, and follow the show on Twitter at Rewatch Pod. You can also visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has links to some of our favorite sites there, such as the forums at zoomway.net, folc.wiki.com, and the supermanhomepage.com. And don't forget, we've also got links to our archive of film Rewatch episodes.
And remember, you can always write us an email or record a voice message. Send it to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. And also, if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. That's very helpful. And you can help support the Rewatch Podcast by heading to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast and make a monthly contribution as little as $1. And thank you to all our patrons. And we're up on YouTube. You can find every single episode that we've ever done there. So search Rewatch Podcast and subscribe today. All right. Well, as always, thank you for joining me, Tom.
Yep.
I'm actually really hanging to see how this plays out next week.
I know.
So hopefully we'll get there sooner rather than later.
Yes.
But that just leaves me to say, until next time, go ahead, mock me.
We gotta fly.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with Warner Brothers Television, ABC, Gangbuster Films Incorporated, or Roundelay Productions.
Don't believe everything you see on TV.
The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use.
Let's get legal on this.
Music provided by Kevin McCloud at incompetech.com.
Great shades of Elvis.
Copyright 2017, The Rewatch Podcast.
Where are your beepers? We'll be in touch.